Wow, everyone's actually, it's like the first day of classes. Everyone actually is quiet when you start. Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Let's try that again. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. All right. Well, welcome to the World's Challenge. And no, I did not stutter. We have so many challenges that we had to repeat it twice, or at least the people at Western University did. So before we get started, a note on three things: food, fun, and phones. So on the food part, we have a few refreshments in the back, so please feel free to get those, especially in between pitches. Phones, there's nothing worse than making a pitch to save the world and having someone's phone go off in the middle of it, so please silence those if you can. And then the fun. We're going to have a Audience Choice Award as we go forward tonight. Derek will talk more about that later. So as you're listening, think about who you want to vote for in that. So before we begin, first and probably most importantly tonight, we'd like to begin by acknowledging the land upon which the University at Buffalo operates, which is the territory of the Seneca Nation, a member of the Haudenosaunee Six Nations Confederacy. And today, this region is still the home to the Haudenosaunee people, and we are grateful for the opportunity to live, to work, and share in this beautiful territory. So thank you to the Haudenosaunee and the Senecas. We also want to give thanks to a few key institutional partners. This event and dialogue simply would not happen without the collaboration of a larger team here at UB. So our friends in international education, Caitlin and Jay, specifically, who remind us every day that we live in this broader, beautiful world with diversity and different cultures that are brought here to UB. Our friends at Blackstone Launchpad, I have to say Techstars, right? There we go, copyright. And their inside joke. And their constant quest to blur the lines between businesses, nonprofits, entrepreneurship, creativity, innovation, and just inspired by Hadar's push every day to empower our students to think about balancing purpose and drive as they move forward to make a better world. To our friends at Western University in the Great White North across the Niagara here, who without their great initiative, this project would not happen. They are the ones who, with their bold vision, have made the World Challenge reality. And most importantly of all the people to thank, we have to thank Derek for driving the train on this and talking to all of you guys, to doing all the recruitment, to helping get our judges, to helping get the outreach efforts out there. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your work. And finally, a word of thanks and introductions to our great judges who are here today. So we are very lucky to have these three individuals, and both their knowledge and expertise is a perfect match for the evaluation that we need today. So Paul Morawski is an architect and architectural planner for the University at Buffalo, and really instrumental and comprehensive in space planning for our campus and the innovation study. Paul graduated from UB's architecture program, which I did not know, in 2009. So Paul, thank you very much for joining us today. Amir Razai is a PhD and lead associate at Canon Design. He is currently working on our aptly named IceCap initiative, which is the Integrated Collaborative Energy and Climate Action Plan, which I joke about every time that we had to match up the initials with an actual explanation before we started. And Amir also graduated from UB in 2013 with a degree in civil and environmental engineering. So thank you for joining us, sir. And our newly minted alum, Kelly Mosier. I guess we had to be alums. So this is the first time I think we've had 3 straight alums on the panel, so this is awesome. Is the Resiliency Grants Manager for the City of Buffalo. She graduated from the UB School of Planning a whopping year ago, not even. But she also provides a very special insight into the World's Challenge. She competed last year with the Flow Project and went to the global finals in London, Ontario. So for that lucky team, so number one, you're all unlucky because she knows exactly what to look for. But number 2, for that lucky team who wins tonight, you're going to want to chat with Kelly as much as you possibly can and her two colleagues who were teammates last year. So thank you guys. We're very lucky to have you. So here is how we're going to spend our time this evening. You'll hear from 7 groups, each with their own idea on how to advance one or multiple Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. These teams of 3 will have up to 5 minutes to present their idea, or they go over 5 minutes, we will open the trap door. You'll be sucked into, piranhas and everything else. Thank you for letting me do my Dr. Evil reference and Austin Powers. Your presentation will then be followed by up to 4 minutes of questions, okay? So we'll do that. We'll keep the time on that. Thank you, Caitlin, for keeping us on our schedule. We are going to be sticklers to the 5 minutes, so if you go over that 5 minutes, we're simply just going to say thank you very much. It's nothing personal, but it's a question of fairness to the teams. We'll then move to the next group, and after everyone has gone, the judges will convene and select winners based upon the specific criteria that was shared with all of you, all the participants earlier, and that Western University is using. While the judges are deliberating, the audience will also vote on their fan favorite, and Derek will brief us on that. And then we will reconvene and announce the winners with the fan favorite at $250, third place with $1,000, second place with $2,000, and then our first place winner with $3,000. And then that first place winning team will take all of us then down to Big Ditch Brewing, pick up the tab. We're all over 21, I'm sure. On a more serious note, the first place finisher will be invited to Western University in London, Ontario, June 2nd through the 7th, where they'll represent the University at Buffalo, one of only 3 American universities that are participating on the world stage, along with the University of Tulsa and University of Minnesota. And there you'll hear and learn from national and actually global experts and collaborate and compete against the best universities in the world, including 9 from Canadian cities and the following countries: Australia, China, Japan, the Netherlands, Switzerland, many others, and New Zealand, who actually won last year. They were really impressive. And you will also have a chance to win an additional $7,500 Canadian for third place, $15,000 Canadian for second, and $30,000 for Canadian for first place. So absolutely no pressure. We're very excited to kick off Sustainability Month with today's World Challenge. We have about 40 different events going on over the course of the month. Sorry, shameless plug. Here they are. Please look at buffalo.edu/sustainability. Many, many more different diverse array of things, from lectures to events to cleanups to other types of engagement. And to really kind of start things off, while this joins 40 others, we really think of the World's Challenge as one of kind of our leading initiatives, in the sense that it truly stands out as helping us to reinforce the importance of the 17 global goals that all United Nations member states have adopted as part of this sustainable development movement. These goals are helping the world define what sustainability is, and as you will hear from all of you, they touch on gender equality, climate, poverty, health, inclusiveness, the environment, reducing inequalities. And closer to home, the SDGs here at UB, we've been leveraging these to think about our own sustainability initiatives. So as former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon reminds us, the SDGs are our shared vision of humanity. And really, if you think of them as a social contract between the world's leaders and the people, they are, simply put, a to-do list for people, planet, and profit, and a blueprint for our success. So, let's get started, and I'm going to ask you all to bear with my lack of international culture in mispronunciation of names. But we're going to start off with hopefully a relatively easy one for me to pronounce. Team, is it Numa or Numa, right? Numu. Team Numu, all right, with Olivia Bergner in Business Administration, Abdul Rahman Hasabala from Environmental and Water Resource Engineering, and Anish Kurtani from Environmental and Water Resource Engineering. Thank you very much.
These will come during the presentation, don't worry. We'll just get them here for now. And, bring
We didn't talk about the no bribery statute.
Awesome. So down is forward.
Oh, can I use the space bar?
Down.
Oh, fine.
Then just use
Yes,
this.
okay.
Y'all ready?
Yeah. Okay. Hi, we're Numu and we're addressing 3 SDGs, zero hunger, climate action, and responsible consumption and production, but that's for later. Let's talk about some beef. Did you know that almost 60% of all agricultural land in America grows food, not for humans, but for cows? And most of it just gets pooped out. Actually, the beef industry accounts for more than 14% of all greenhouse gas emissions. That is more than all the cars in the world combined. And now think about how many innovations we make in making cars more sustainable. And what have we done about the most basic of human needs? Food. Why have we not made food more sustainable? We at Numu believe we have the solution, which is tasty, healthy, and incredibly sustainable. Our solution? Insects. Now, before I lose you, we already do eat insects. A quarter of the world's population in China and Latin America do consider insects as a regular part of their diet. Shrimp, we love shrimp, right? They're arthropods, the insects of the sea, and we devour them. So I don't think we have a problem with insects per se.
And that couldn't be any truer. Most of us as humans like our food processed and seasoned and away informed from the animal it came from. And that's exactly why we do not eat cows, we eat beef. I don't eat fish eggs, I eat caviar. And because we're from Buffalo, none of us here eats poultry, we eat chicken wings. Problem is, we don't have something similar with insects. And as humans living in the West or in westernized cultures, we have 2 additional problems. First, we have a mind block associated with eating insects. We associate it as a pest or consider it repulsive. And 2, we don't even have access to insect-based food, and that reduces our exposure. To address this, we as humans transform insects or mealworms into delicious burger patties. And I promise you, they taste as good as they look. At its worst case scenario, our currently unsustainable diets will change. By shifting our dependence off cows and placing it onto insects, we can dramatically slash our carbon footprint. In the same time it takes to grow cattle to feed a population of 15 people, we can grow insects to feed a population of a whole country. Actually, for every 100 traditional beef burgers we consume, we produce over 750 pounds of greenhouse gas emissions. For every 100 Numu insect-based burgers, we only produce 10 pounds of greenhouse gas emissions. And best of all, we think we can make it work in a feasible fashion.
So we want to start out by taking our Numu Burger and bringing it to restaurants that already have a consumer that trusts them for something that they look for to eat. So we want to bring sustainable eating to the consumers at these restaurants. Currently, we place first place at the UB Bulls Launch competition. We're going $1,500 to cultivate our recipe, which is right over there in front of you, and we're really proud of it. And we get our mealworm from the Rocky Mountain Micro Ranch, which is based in Colorado, and they are an FDA-approved human-grade consumption mealworm. And we have tried to bring the insects to the community, and so we hosted a bug banquet where we gave friends and family and people in the community an opportunity to try out our Numu Burger, and we got their feedback. And additionally, we have met with Zach Snyder, who's a local Buffalo entrepreneur who started Roo's Pierogies, and he's been helping us and gave us a lot of feedback. So currently, we get our mealworms from the Rocky Mountain Micro Ranch for about $1 to $2 an ounce, and it costs about $3 to make that burger right over there. And we'll sell it then to the restaurants, and in the future, working with economies of scale and buying in bulk, working with the producers, we'll be able to exceed profit. And in the future, we want to validate the product as well as co-pack it, which would cost around $45,000.
So we at Numu want to address all three pillars of sustainability: the economic, the environmental, and the social, through the three sustainable development goals of climate action, responsible consumption and production, and zero hunger. And in the middle of all this is Numu, where we strive hard to make the idea of a sustainable future more appetizing. Thank you. We also have a bunch more burgers for everyone to taste and try.
I don't know how to open it.
Say open sesame.
You don't have to.
No,
You
No,
can
I
skip that.
totally want
Oh,
to.
okay, cool.
We have a few bets going on who will and who will not.
Put it at the back. At the back.
Probably put them
Exactly. So as we're doing this, just because we have a schedule to
Yeah,
keep,
question.
straight to the judges for 4 minutes of questions.
Yeah, I'll
Two.
jump right into it. It's not the first time I'm hearing about the concept, right? Who's your competition? What are you doing to beat them?
So a lot of competition, so the major competition is beef, but I think other competition is the Impossible Burger. We're making a beef replacement using plants. And so one of the things we're doing is we're the only ones making insect burgers in the United States.
Perfect
So
to market.
So you're saying there's no one company doing burger based on insects?
no one else.
Plants based?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's a completely first to market product. But there's still competition if you look at a broader scope of like meat replacement products.
Right.
There's competition, and I think the growing awareness is working out.
Also, the jump from beef to vegetarianism may be too big of a step to take. So insects can be a middle ground. I tried being vegetarian for 1 day, and I didn't make it past lunch.
Go for it, Jim.
So I have two questions. I'll ask one to start, and if we have time, I'll ask the second one. My biggest question is if you considered the effects this could have on agribusiness, especially knowing how big agriculture is as a market for businesses in the United States and the economic impact agriculture has. Because one side that I've seen a lot related to farming and the climate change and the impacts on climate change of farming is that cows don't just produce beef. They produce, in most cases of industrial agriculture they do, but I'm wondering if you've considered some of those other economic impacts that livestock agribusiness has and how your product might impact that.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that we're trying to do is like always get our support. Right now we're getting it from Argos from Colorado because they're the only ones that are FDA approved for the kind of crop we wanted to use. But mealworms are grown throughout the United States as chicken feed. So we want to encourage local growers to get FDA approved for human consumption, so we can use those. And again, like there's always like when you have a new industry, a new product coming up, there's always somebody, you're taking somebody else's niche space, and that's like a move that we slowly have to transition into a more sustainable way of agriculture. The meat production, whether it be insect or livestock, will still have to happen, and we'll have to work on a business model which can be done in the most in the way with least friction in between.
If I may add also to just sustain the population growth that will happen by 2050, this agricultural land will need to double. It's probably not going to happen. If anything, land is shrinking because of climate change. And when Lydia says a microfarm, we're talking about something smaller than this room. So it seems to help a little bit.
1 minute.
Paul,
I'm curious about how you chose to come up with the name Numu Beef. Thinking that they're insects, right? Like why you would call it something that it's not, and there might be some market, confusion there.
Oh, it's just Numu. Like the
Yeah.
people,
Okay,
it's
so-
communication.
I think that was like a
between
mistake in
some-
the-
Yeah.
That was my bad, Paul.
So I guess I'll follow up. The next question would be, so what are other kind of products that you can see these mealworms developing into for food products?
Sure. So actually, a lot of, right now, you can actually buy crackers or granola bars, but they do rely on the physical appearance of insects. There is an insect component to it. The Numu Burger actually eliminates that physical appearance of an insect, so it's processed. Traditionally, we Taylor allowed us to spend 3 months in her kitchen to experiment with it. And we're very proud of our product, but we've also tried dessert options where we would bread it and like put some sort of like honey or syrup on it. So we can transform the shape. And right now, we're just going with the traditional burger patty because the burger is associated with good times, something we're all familiar with. It's actually on half the menus in the United States.
Red time.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice job, Matt.
Okay, while Derek is teeing up the next presentation, that would be for edible spoons, and that is Madison Clark, Environmental Engineering, Eric Davis, Chemical Engineering, and Madeline Harp from Environmental Engineering. Please come on up.
Down in advance. Let the sun down and let you guys know. The closer to the microphone and the more we can pick it up. I don't want you to be comfortable. Walk around. Okay, yes. All right, you guys ready?
I just.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for coming today. We are here to change the world one spoon at a time. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals set by the United Nations for the year 2030. We focused on 2 of these for our project. The sustainable goals we focused on are numbers 12, responsible consumption and production, and 14, life below water. According to Our World in Data, of the 6.3 billion metric tons of plastic waste that have been produced, only 9% has been recycled and 12% has been incinerated, which leaves 79% of all plastic waste produced filling landfills in the oceans. By 2050, the oceans will have more plastic than fish by weight. The countries that contribute the most to the plastic debris entering the world's oceans are China, Indonesia, and the Philippines. These 3 countries alone contribute 5.57 million metric tons of plastic debris every year. The food industry is driven by capitalism and convenience. Consumers only have the choice to use plastic utensils at many restaurants and college campuses. The plastic utensils get thrown out and end up in landfills and in the oceans, where they stay for hundreds of years until they decompose. If restaurants and college campuses started offering edible cutlery, less plastic utensils would be used.
A common misconception of the U.S. is that we are a leader in technology and sustainability. We are not, because the U.S. produces copious amounts of plastic waste every single year. In the U.S., approximately 0.75 pounds of plastic waste is produced per person per day. This continues to be problematic in today's society because it is much easier and convenient to use single-use plastic over a reusable utensil. The current problem is that plastic takes hundreds of years to decompose. We need a fix to decrease the buildup of plastic waste in our oceans and landfills. Our proposed solution is to manufacture edible spoons made from either rice, wheat, or flour. These ingredients are easily accessible across the world and very inexpensive to purchase. These can be made either savory, sweet, or plain, depending on the person's preferences and the food they are eating. This then creates a 100% natural alternative to plastic. These spoons can be produced by using a reusable mold, which will then ensure consistency across the products. If not eaten, the spoons will disintegrate in less than a week, and these images are our current prototype.
Our product, Edible Spoons, would like to partner with the United Nations to utilize the social media outreach of the organization. Our goal is to work with Sustainable Development Goals Media Zone and Action App, a platform a platform so we can get our product out to the world, basically, so they know about our innovative idea. After we have a final product in hand, after our research and development, we'll be in contact with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to make sure we're following all safety and food regulations to sell to the customers. Along with United Nations and FDA, we envision a partnership with UB campus and dining shops to try to get our product into campus dining shops and other shops on campus. UB is an innovative university that is working very hard towards the goal of zero plastic, such as eliminating straws and implementing lids. We think that edible spoons could be the next step UB takes. Implementation. So for the next 3 to 6 months, we believe that testing and developing our product is going to be our main goal to really come up at the 6-month mark with a finalized prototype. Then we're going to be promoting our edible spoons through marketing and social media for the next year. In a year and a half from now, we would like to be implementing it to the customer in green restaurants, eateries, and other sustainably friendly places like the university. So financials and budget. As you can see, edible cutlery and plastic do have a similar price point for low volume. As the volume gets larger, plastic does become more cheaper, and that is why it's one of the reasons it's main in this field right now. Edible spoons do have advantages such as recyclability and cultural appeal. Our plan to produce revenue and be a viable alternative to cutlery is to sell our products to universities and small eateries. These companies would give the option to customers to use edible spoons as a replacement for plastic and metal spoons at a small extra fee to the customer. We believe that small steps such as edible spoons can make a big change in life below water and responsible consumption. Thank you for your time. We'll now take questions.
I'll throw the first one out there. So what's your main market entry approach?
So basically, for the next couple months, we're going to be research and developing and working on our prototype. And then we would try to probably try to get into the university, because we know the university is always trying to be more sustainable, like getting rid of straws and moving into lids. So we know that New York State is trying to get rid of plastic bags. So we really think that eliminating single-use cutlery on campus would be great for us to get our product into the university.
From a strategy of trying to get these into restaurants and having the restaurants use them, you had mentioned that there's an extra fee to the customer potentially to use this. So have you done any research to show that that would actually support people choosing to use that spoon rather than just maybe increasing the prices of the food to accommodate that cost?
I know in Long Island, in some areas of Long Island, the consumer will pay an extra price to use a plastic bag. So, and if they want to use a plastic bag, they'll pay that extra amount. And I believe more people would want to use a reusable spoon or an edible spoon to help eliminate plastic waste.
Another thing is the places we want to implement them are already on like green restaurants, so already people who already care about sustainability, and so we think they would make the choice to pay a little extra to use our product.
I'm wondering if you've thought at all about distribution and actually getting the spoon to the customer, because it is edible. I don't know if you thought at all about how you would get the product to the restaurants or the locations that are going to be using it, and then also issues potentially with food safety of handing the product over to the customer.
Yeah, we're still working on some of the logistics with packaging, things like that, distributing, trying to keep all of our packaging sustainable, so we're not just putting in plastic bags or anything like that. So, anything to add?
What's the current, I guess, recipe of sorts for this food? What's the makeup? Is it wheat, rice, or?
Sorry. So, you guys want to jump in? So we started, the first thing we started doing was using a mold of just a regular spoon, and we did that with flour and water and salt. Then we got, a little bit crazier. We threw in some cocoa powder, stuff like that. So we really want to try to shake it up, because there are one other edible spoon out there. So we just want to try to differentiate ourselves from them.
I think an interesting thing they might be wise to look at, instead of providing the spoon to people, providing the recipe and the mold being the product. And then that would allow the restaurant to potentially make their own and experiment in that way.
To build off of that, I was curious at all if you looked at how other countries might be implementing something like this. I know in a lot of communities, actually in India and Mexico, they have community efforts to create a product similar to this that they use as unique. So can you speak a little bit to that?
There's another company called Bakeries. They produce their product, or they have like an edible spoon, but they distribute it with plastic wrapped. But we haven't looked into how other countries distribute it.
I know some countries in Europe, obviously, they have straws made out of pasta, so this isn't like a wild idea. Food is, obviously, people are trying to get away from single-use plastics. Any other questions?
That'll be fine.
Great, okay.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I was preemptive.
No, you're fine. Thank you. Excellent. Yeah, perfect. Yep. Feel free to grab those, and then we can sit back there. Super. The next team is Team Freedom Walker. Jonathan Bissett, Lion Laskew, and Mathanian Bomi. And Jonathan is from Engineering and Fine Art. Lion is from Business and Marketing. And Mathanian is from Health and Human Services and Sociology of Health and Society. That is a lot of majors. Awesome.
Hello, my name is Tanya Bowman.
I'm Jonathan Bissett.
I'm Lion Laskew.
The sustainable and development goal that we selected was good health and well-being, because we believe that every individual deserves a better quality of life. At my local Presbyterian home that I volunteer at, there was a tragic incident that happened. One of the elderly individuals was attempting to walk over the threshold, and as she started to walk forward with her walker, she ended up getting stuck and falling with her walker. This resulted in her skin tearing and her having to go to the hospital to get treated. Thankfully, she has been healed, but now she just asks for help whenever it comes to going outside. However, what if we could replace this standard walker that endangered her and individuals just like her with a freedom walker that enables individuals to walk on any type of surface without ever having to move, maneuver, or ever lift it to get it to go over any type of floor or terrain? It is also worth noting that there is a dire need for mobility devices, not just here in the United States, but globally as well. One out of many studies concluded that standard walkers were problematic for elderly individuals. In a semi-structured interview, about 73% of geriatric patients stated that they had problems using the walker, going over uneven ground while using their walker, which increased their risk of falling and getting injured.
The standard walkers are such a problem, however, that 47,000 elderly Americans end up in the emergency room every year while using a standard walker or cane. We hope to limit this number as much as possible. And we think this problem is even larger overseas, where they don't have the same infrastructure as us with even sidewalks and roads to walk on. We think it's useful for aging individuals as well as recovering people. So we, as the United States and other Western countries, have developed these products with their own market in mind. That means the price point and the use cases are designed for us, which means it's too expensive for someone in a country like the Central African Republic with an annual income of $390 United States dollars. Even a $30 walker will be way out of their price range.
And typically we think of our consumer society in a more linear way, right? We take in raw materials, we produce a product, and we throw it out at the end of this. What we're looking more towards is a circular economic system, where instead of this, we're reusing this product, repurposing this product. And this is exactly what we're doing, except for with the old walker systems. Now, our solution is inspired by a car suspension system. Now, what we basically did is we took this concept of a spring mass damper system and we miniaturized it in an attachment system for walkers so that they can be used in other countries and developing countries as well as our own. It's a simple component, it has a simple function, it doesn't require any electronics, and it can be installed within a matter of seconds. These are some other design iterations that we have as well, and we're considering other designs for different markets, different situations as well.
So we are looking to work with a number of key partners in nonprofit, industry, and academia. We think nonprofit organizations have already begun helping us understand what it is our customers need and what solution could offer them the best value. We also have been working with academia already, such as Blackstone Launchpad, to help develop our business idea to be able to get closer to going to market. We hope industry can help us with supporting our donation efforts with donating walkers that we can put our attachment onto to distribute to the developing world where these products are needed.
So we've already been through the first 3 months of our implementation plan. We've conceptualized an idea, done some computational modeling and some engineering. We've developed some preliminary prototypes and some experiments. And in the next few months, what we're looking to do is some field testing, potentially even seek an IRB-approved study to prove the validity of our device. After this, we're going to hopefully seek a utility patent. Right now, I'm working on a provisional patent. That's nearly done. And in the future, we're going to try and manufacture 25 commercial prototypes, which we will then distribute for free to local community centers, which Matthani is working with.
So financials, we're looking to be a Type B corporation with two motives, one for profit and one for helping mobility in the developing world. For every 2 products we sell to a Western country, such as the United States or Europe, we will donate one of our products to a country in need of mobility assistance devices. We've self-funded $10,000 US for patent development and the research we are currently undergoing. And after we are finished our patent and are ready to bring our product to market, we'll be seeking a $100,000 investment round to fully manufacture initial run and bring it to customers. Thank you for supporting Freedom Walker and our company and team's dream of helping the developing world and our world have mobility, safer mobility worldwide. Thank you.
It's like we're going this way, I guess, we'll throw it out there.
Can I ask just for a quick, can you use that mic just so that we can catch it on the answer the
course,
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you.
So I think I heard in your presentation that you, circular economy, you're planning on using some recycled materials as part of it. Especially excited because I'm at home, I have a broken TV right now. They told me you can fix it, I have to buy a new one. So I didn't hear what part you think of, like recycling. If you could elaborate on that and how you bring a circular aspect to that.
Of course. So our idea is that we have a lot of standard walkers that people don't necessarily even use in the United States. And the concept is that we would take these walkers from companies, from individuals, and we would repurpose them and use them in other countries, and as well as our own. Because we also see this problem in our own country, right? I mean, there's classic examples of people, getting sort of stuck on thresholds. I noticed it when I was with my grandmother the last time. She'd get stuck trying to get up a ramp or anything. And this limits people, especially in developing countries. Like I was just in India last January, and I saw that people with these disability issues can't even really get around their own country, and they typically will stay indoors.
So your product is an attachment to existing.
Correct. Yes. So that's the concept for right now. Yeah, to sort of repurpose and reutilize old devices, and we're also looking into other mobility mechanisms such as wheelchairs in the future. Yep.
Can you show us how it works?
Sure, yeah. We actually have a video for that right now, but we could demonstrate with this. We don't necessarily have like a threshold.
Yeah, it's a very small line of tape next to the microphone stand.
Let me scroll through the video, but yeah.
I'm going to go to the end.
Yeah, it's at the end of it. Sorry. But we could also show you the mechanism as well. Yeah, so if you go forward one, it should be the next slide. So, and then click all of the videos. Let's see if I can. This is the first design we sort of came up with. There's a spring, like, damper system inside. It's very large and bulky, so that was kind of our first just conceptual design. And this one's a little loose as well. The idea is that it would spin over, and then have like a sort of shock system on the inside to reduce that big. We don't do something to adjust the spring constantly or things like that.
So the idea is that each of these could attach to an existing walker.
Exactly, yeah. So we actually are using the standard walker system right now, the 1-inch diameter. So I could literally pop off any standard walker we don't place this on as well.
Is your design dependent on type of walker? I'm assuming there's some level of standardization in the walker that you're.
Exactly, yes, yeah. So right now it's a 1-inch diameter base, and that's sort of the standard. And that's like the most common one, but we can easily manufacture different attachment types for other types of walkers that exist that could be repurposed.
I'm wondering if your team thought at all about some of the social stigma that exists around disability. I know my grandmother is very, very against using her walker because she feels like it makes her look and feel older than she actually is. So I wonder if you thought about that in our own country, but also the extreme social stigma that tends to occur in developing nations as well. 1 minute.
Would you guys would like to speak on that?
We've thought a little bit just on kind of how we can model the walker to fit their needs better, so it's not seen as such a kind of drag to carry around, but we don't really have any.
I think I'd say more so with the stability aspect, it's the independence. I've often when you get stuck in these things and you have an issue, you don't and you encounter a problem, you don't have as much confidence, you don't feel as independent when you're doing these activities. And I think that having stability and feeling confident in the device, eventually understanding that it works will help generate that confidence even using these mobility devices.
Yeah.
Well, that is interesting though, especially when you go to a different culture, in a different context, that they might even perceive walkers in general as something that might not be as accepting.
Oh, just going down to what he said, I think that like the stigma thing maybe has to do with like, as a standard walker, like, those uneven surfaces that they can't get onto, like, but with our freedom, that's, I guess that was the name, like, we called it too, because we want them to have that ability and like freedom to like just move around and like just be free to know that, using that type of, the walker that we have will help them in any, like, in any circumstances, like, hopefully, so. Hopefully that would erase that segment. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't even see it, I'm so sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So just a reminder to our groups, if you can present from the podium, it'd be great, only because we want to pick you up so that we can use the video later and have that all good. Our next group is Road to Success. Karar Al-Jahani, Daniel Petrov, Umar Syed. Karar is from Biological Sciences and Mathematics, Daniel from Chemical Engineering, and Umar is from Biological Sciences and Public Health. Come on up.
Hi everyone, we're Team Roads to Success, and our idea is an innovative plastic road. So from the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, we've chosen to address 3. Target 7.2, which is the increase of global percent of renewable energy, the development of sustainable infrastructure, and also the reduction of the environmental impact of cities.
So one of the greatest challenges we're going to have to overcome this century is the effects of plastic pollution. So studies show by 2050, there's going to be more plastic in the oceans than there are fish. And when plastic enters the ocean, or waterways, it circulates by gyres, which are large ocean currents, and distributes throughout the world's oceans. And one of the effects of this is that plastic hinders the ocean's ability to absorb CO2, which accelerates the effects of climate change. Now, the U.S. plays a significant role in plastic pollution. Less than 10% of the U.S.'s plastic is actually recycled, while 39.1% is recycled in the European Union and 22% in China. And one of the reasons for this is the national sword policy in China. And a lot of the U.S.'s plastic is actually sent to China to be recycled. And recently, China has raised their standards of what can be recycled. And as a result, the U.S. is unable to send a lot of its plastic because it does not reach the standards of China. And along with this, plastic is also very durable and cheap, so it is used by manufacturers versus other materials.
So what if the plastic that we use could be turned into roads? Across the world, there are over 40 million kilometers of roadways being used with asphalt. So our solution is to create prefabricated road structures from recycled plastics. Currently, roads are being built using 90% rock, limestone, sand, and about 10% of bitumen, which is a binding material. By using plastics like high-density polyethylene and peat, which are 2 plastics commonly found in plastic bottles and plastic bags, we're able to take these plastics, melt them down, and create a plastic composite which can be mixed with the aggregate and essentially replace the bitumen. So according to the Cumbria County Council in the UK, these plastics, when acting as a bitumen substitute, are 60% stronger than asphalt. Our road design is also sustainable and recyclable. So this is a conceptual model that our team has designed. Essentially, we plan on creating road segments and connecting together essentially like a Lego construction. So we plan on using modular construction to connect these pieces, so having our road segments created in a factory, shipped on-site, and come prefabricated and pre-assembled ready for installation. That way, if there's ever some sort of pothole or some sort of damage, we can simply take that piece of the road out, recreate a new piece using the same material, and then put it back in. Our design also has a water collection feature. So instead of water simply percolating off to the side of the road, we can actually collect that water in a collection culvert, which will be transported to a micro hydroelectric turbine, as we plan on making our road permeable to rainwater using a grate system. So this turbine will be able to create about 10 to 100 kilowatts of electricity simply from the natural flow of water that we plan to use to power small suburban communities. So who are our target consumers? Well, we plan to work with both municipalities and electric companies. Since our road is significantly cheaper, as Karar will speak in a moment, governments will actually benefit when working with us, and since we are putting electricity back into the grid, we hope to create a relationship with these electric companies. And as our communities become more and more sustainable, we have multiple key partners that we look to work with. Recently, our local government in Erie County just signed the Paris Climate Agreement in 2018 with the goal of reducing fossil fuel consumption. With this in mind, we hope to work with them in implementing our road design in Buffalo. Also, Green Star Pallet and WeSort are two organizations in Buffalo that act as plastic pallet distributors, so we hope to work with them as well. KWS and Wavin are also market leaders in road construction.
We will be taking a series of steps to implement our design. During the first year, we will start by securing funding through donations and grants. Then during the second year of Q1, we will start by further curating computer simulations and analyzing our design to show its effectiveness, to establish relationships with Erie County and plastic distributors, which will help us develop a bike path to test our design. Then we'll further analyze this and then begin to implement it in a small suburban community. The slide behind me represents the production cost for producing plastic roads. The production of plastic roads will total about to $2.8 million, while the production of asphalt roads is $4.1 million. In addition to being much more cost effective, plastic roads require much less manufacturing time.
Thank you. And this is our business model summary. Thanks.
I thought that the strategy of doing a bike path first was really interesting. It's a really interesting way to kind of test out your model, your process. So props for that. My question is more in terms of, just so I'm clear, you're using plastic as the aggregate in the asphalt versus your standard, gravel or whatever it is in there? Okay. Have there been any concerns on your part for like water leaching and the chemicals that come out of the plastics into the water system?
Right, so we've actually discussed that, and if we do find that that is a problem through our testing, with a sidewalk or bike path, we could essentially place a sealant over, some sort of chemical sealant to try and reduce that. So essentially, the rainwater will not be contaminated by the plastic, so, yeah.
I'll go next, playing Mr. Wonderful here, if you don't get the reference. So I love the fact that you've combined different ideas that kind of touch on different things, like the road piece, the water collection piece, and then the renewable energy generation. Maybe a suggestion, I don't know, I feel like if you had a focal point, one of these things would have been tackled better, we have a more effective strategy. For example, I know of competitors out there that do the renewable energy generation from the water hydraulics and the pipes, for example, right? You're competing with that, and you're competing with the people doing the road, you're competing with people doing the water collection. Maybe moving forward, something to think about, have a focal point that clearly can drive the point home and have some success to build on.
Right, yeah, so our main point is the plastic roads. I guess you could consider like the turbine as sort of like an added benefit that we've kind of designed and tried to implement with our road design, so thanks for the suggestion.
And I would close, I guess. I'm wondering if you could speak to actually how much plastic material is required to maybe do the bike path that you're thinking about, because in my head I can't wrap up how many plastic water bottles this would take, right? And then if that sheer volume of plastic required would then require any additional infrastructure to be put in place or to be developed to do the processing pre-installation.
Yeah, so essentially from our research and through, there's a company in the Netherlands that's doing something similar to this, and they've actually found that about 1 ton of asphalt is equivalent to about 20,000 plastic bottles and 70,000 plastic bags for 1 ton of asphalt. So the plastic would act as a substitute for that asphalt. As for the infrastructure, we plan on using the government's already installed infrastructure for, I'm not sure if you're talking about
the plastic, like how you would actually process the plastic to get it to the point where you use it in the asphalt.
Okay, yeah, so we would need to work with other companies and organizations to try and create some sort of relationship to get over that point, so thank you.
I think those would be great points to incorporate into your presentation.
Absolutely, yeah. thinking about the supply chain.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Getting the next slide deck up on, for those of you who have been watching at home, whether, Amir has eaten a lot of his fruits, but I notice he has not touched a burger yet.
He has it covered.
We'll just let that sit for a little while, right?
Well, I have.
I appreciate that leadership, Paul. So our next team, Consumer Free Waste, with Jatwanth Kola, she's in industrial engineering, Mega Mohan in industrial engineering, and Siva in industrial engineering. Thank you very much.
Good luck, guys.
A very happy morning for all of you, and thanks a lot for being here today. So what we propose to do is reuse of packaging material in e-commerce industries. Why should we do it? What happens if we don't do it? That is what my friend here is going to talk to you about.
Good evening, I'm Megha. So for our project, the goal we have chosen is goal number 12, responsible consumption and production. So moving on to the background of the project, according to the future of corrugated packaging to 2023, corrugated cardboard manufacturing has high growth. Also in e-commerce, corrugated cardboard is a major medium that is used, and it is estimated that about 20 billion worth of corrugated material is used right now. And due to this explosion of e-commerce, the cardboard used from the retailers is now coming from the end customers, which are product buyers. And unfortunately, due to the lack of knowledge of effective recycling, all these packaging materials gets directly dumped to the landfills rather than properly recycling. Also, some of the negative effects of excess packaging is that it leads to deforestation because wood pulp, which is used as raw material for cardboard manufacturing. One of the other negative effects is that toxic chemical which is used in the manufacturing of packaging materials affects human health when they enter in our food cycle. Other thing is the harmful radiation or air pollution that comes from the transportation causes global warming because of the carbon dioxide emission. US is also contributing and responsible for the issue that is right now. Also, the total waste generated in the US, according to the study conducted by the World Bank, is 289 million tons, out of which 10% is e-commerce waste. Out of this 10%, 70% get recycled and 20% get dumped directly to landfills. Now my teammate Shiva will take it further.
We are all equally responsible for this. What happens to a product when we receive it through an e-commerce company? What we do with it, we remove the packaging and we dump it straight into bins. We don't, more often than not, we do not put it into recycling. And due to this, we do not effectively recycle it, and we don't reuse it either. Like, although the cardboard boxes are in good condition, although we can reuse it, we do not do it. When did we identify this problem? So the first time we noticed this was like anybody else. When we saw our e-commerce packages, for this small shirt, I came in such a big box. I was wondering, why is it so bulky? And then we went behind and to look back at this. That's when we realized how much it costed to manufacture it, how much trees were being deforested, and the impact on the environment was huge. And that's why we have a proposal. What we propose to do is remove the consumer from the waste segregation process. Let me tell you how it works now and what we propose to do. So how it works now is once you place an order, it either goes from the manufacturer or retail outlet to the warehouse. At the warehouse, it gets packaged. More often than not, it gets over-packaged. And then it goes to the distribution center. From the distribution center, it goes to the delivery hub. And then from the delivery hub, it's out for delivery and it reaches the customer through a delivery personnel. What we intend to do here is Before it reaches the customer, we want to remove the excess bulk packaging and then take it straight to the warehouse so that it can be reused again. We've researched on this extensively. We've spoken to industry experts, and what you're seeing here is just a small portion of the research that we've gone through.
To put this idea, to put this concept, to put the customer-free model into implementation, it not only has to be a sustainable one, it also has to be something that is profitable for the e-commerce industry. Any business wants, profit is the main idea for all businesses. So it should also be a sustainable option. Initially, these are the key partners we thought to implement this. The delivery partners are UPS, FedEx, and e-commerce partners are Amazon, Alibaba. These people provide special service to this. They are the one who mostly pack their products, and so what we want to develop this model in such a way that it provides sustainability and this thing, and we are planning on reusing it. We calculated the cost of reusing it and the cost of transferring the reused material, the packaging that is being reused. We want to transfer it, and we have estimated a profit of $6.8 billion for the e-commerce industry every year. Thank you.
Can you go back to the slide which shows the process?
No.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
I guess so just to preface it, my questions with that. So you're saying that from the point when it leaves the distribution facility to the point where the carrier picks it up, the carrier would then remove the box?
Yeah, before the last mile happens, before it gets into the delivery man, we want to set up a small tweak in the process. We want to remove this, and we even want to redesign the boxes that are being shipped. And it's not the typical boxes where they'll be wrapped with tape. It is an easily removable box where inside there will be a package with a thin layer of coating on it, where they can put the RFID tags and the IR tags on it, so that they'll be reading it properly and sending it to the right person. So we want to take the excess packaging and keep it aside, and we want to send it back to the distribution center, because Amazon and other e-commerce industries have distribution centers in every state. And the product that we order doesn't have to come from the same state that we are at. It can come from California to New York. But if it comes to New York, in New York, for example, for Buffalo, we can take the packaging and keep it aside and send it to New York. Or some places where it has other warehouses where it packs again and it can be distributed. So they have distribution centers in every state. Every state has a distribution center. We can send it to the closest possible distribution center. We can also reduce the transportation cost in such a way, and we can reuse it. So it is also sustainable, and it is also generating profit for them. So any business would definitely opt it. Profit is the main idea of all businesses, and sustainability gives it a furthermore edge, and it can tell its customers that we are opting a more sustainable way as a marketing idea as well.
So that process that you're creating, the business will be that process, essentially eliminating that box and process. And I guess what I'm wondering is the last mile, then how would the product get there without a box, like in a thin sort of covered sort of?
The vans that are delivering it in the last mile, mostly every major delivery partner, everybody has a delivery hub in like cities. They have like 3 to 4 delivery hubs. So if they're delivering for a locality somewhere near the South Campus or something like that, they have a hub like 1 to 2 miles from it. So the damage that is being caused, like if you're wondering that how is it safe, if you're wondering how is it is a very short distance, and they're put in safe, secure vans, and they're
so the vans will be carried over securely, and not just that. Every manufacturer gives it a small amount of packaging, so he decides this is enough to protect the product. So we intend to give it the way the manufacturer intended to provide to the customers.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, you mentioned that you did a lot of research, and I saw that you had some sources. Is there an example where something like this has been implemented, where you saw it worked and succeeded?
The problem is that they were conveniently just sending out for recycling without all major e-commerce industries earlier, without factoring the fact that while you're recycling, you're still pushing out effluents to the environment. And the problem now is, due to the change in tariffs with America and China, it's not as easy as it was earlier to send all your packages to China and to recycle it. It's far more expensive to do it here in the US, but there is no other choice. So this is when we can implement it and start reusing it instead of recycling it.
Thank you very much.
Good job, guys.
Great. Our next group is Friends with Food, always one of my favorite things to hang with. Arslan Hagdal, of Public Health, Masood Vaziri with Civil Engineering, and Ronak Maharabi with Civil Engineering as well. Great. Thank you.
Go down, man. Good luck.
Today, my friends and I are addressing the Sustainable Development Goal number 16, which is to promote peace, justice, and a strong institution for sustainable development. Peace and the culture of peace is an alternative for culture of war and violence, and seeks to resolve the conflicts and problems through negotiation among people and nations. We believe that achieving the peace is a basis to achieve all other goals. So our today's solution addresses different other goals, such as number 2, number 3, and number 17. 70 years ago, United Nations was established to save the succeeding generation from war, and the overall trend has been toward a peaceful world. But recent increases in armed conflicts are putting this long-term advance in global peace at risk, and it has made people to displace from their countries, and it has increased poverty. So it's vital that global community change its attitude from reaction to war to prevention. That means we should promote reconciliation and tolerance between different social groups through negotiation and education.
All right, so let's now talk about what's the role of your country, or more accurately all countries, in achieving peace. So we think that peace isn't something that's either created or sabotaged by one or two countries. It's a state that is the result of collective actions of many countries. And just like Ronak was explaining, peace and justice are the underlying principles to achieving all the other sustainable goals that the UN has set. And so now, what is your contribution? What is our contribution to peace and justice? We think that every injustice that takes place in the world is the result of good people failing to take action. And UNESCO has a good quote that says, since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. So how are we going to address this? By our common language, that is food. So our idea is called Friends with Food. So imagine you want to try Mexican food tonight, or you want to try Chinese food, or you want to go to a Middle Eastern restaurant. Imagine instead of going to a restaurant, you could go to the house of people of that country who are willing to host you for that meal. So let's say there is an immigrant family from the Middle East who is willing to host you for lunch or dinner and offer you the food of their country of origin. You can simply think of this idea as Airbnb for food, for example. So how do we think that this is going to address this goal? We think that a lot of hate, racism, or xenophobia that goes around in the world is the result of people's unfamiliarity with each other. So by connecting people at the most intimate setting, that is your home, and creating that dialogue, we think this is going to address that issue.
Okay, so other than the main structure of our platform that Arsan explained, we believe that universities are the first partners to start collaborating with, because they already have a vastly diverse population of students, and they care about their students' well-being. A few months ago, here at UB, people were looking for a way to make food pantry looks good. Well, we can provide them with that, but it's not just food. We also introduce different cultures to students. Other than that, it could be beneficial for us because people talk, and we believe, and we are talking about lots of people here, so it could be a launchpad for us. Moreover, there are tons of associations within universities that try to represent themselves in different events. We can be the key to connect them together. So, if we find a chance to proceed with the idea, we will develop it during summer. We start negotiating with different institutes within UB in fall, and hopefully we will launch it in a spring semester. Good thing is that there are some of the famous companies following the same structure as ours, so we could learn from them. And just as an example, looking at their startup budget, it looks promising that ours is not going to be too expensive. Thank you.
So just to start, would like to say thank you for highlighting at the forefront an SDG that I feel like often gets associated with like a secondary or tertiary impact. I think it's really great that you're highlighting peace and justice, especially the role that large institutions have to play in that too.
Thank you.
I'm curious about the platform you're going to use by which to implement this really great, or I think really great idea, and how that might be deployed on university campuses to start.
So it's just like I was explaining, it's a two-sided online platform like Uber or Airbnb that there's people who are looking to buy the product and those who are willing to sell it. So for example, let's say you're the consumer, you can go on this website or app that we launch, and then you can choose like the type of a food that, or the location of the food that you want to experience. Like if you want to have Chinese food or Mexican food, South American food, whatever. And then that matches you with all the people in your region who are offering it to you. And then we basically connect these two to each other. And then universities are a good place to start with, just because UB, for example, is such a diverse place with people from all different countries. It can be a good starting point for this idea.
And the idea of the food pantry in the university actually is providing food to students in need. And today, I think they are working to provide food at some places. Maybe it's not available to all of the students, and this way, as we explained here, and one of the innovations in the UB, they are looking to provide food to these students that is free of stigma, and that people feel good about joining these events. So it has two purposes. First, promoting diversity. Second, zero hunger and food health for all of these students at the campus.
Yeah, I mean, kind of similar question, I guess, in terms of the product and how it's going to connect people. I think you can talk different ways of connecting people to food. That's probably the easy part of it. Especially since you talked about Airbnb, I think one of the hardest pieces I was reading about it was the culture piece, right? How to infuse that. When it comes to food, are you thinking that accidentally, because you're exposing people to the food, the culture piece comes with it too, or you have thoughts behind?
More importantly, because you're exposing people to the homes of other people. So by that, you experience the hospitality of another culture. Food is just a small part of the entire home setting that you get to experience. Yeah.
I have just two questions. One is this something that someone pays for? Is that part of the exchange?
Majority of it, yes. And then we would have charitable contributions as a part of it. Yeah.
I guess the next question I have is that, so say I'm someone who is a little bit culturally adverse to some sort of group. I might not necessarily be the one that wants to engage in this platform. So versus someone who's really interested in other cultures, they would be more than happy to engage with this. How do you get the first group who is not so willing to engage, which is what you're trying to confront a little bit? How do you get them to engage and to be a part of this platform?
Yes, the price. So one thing that if you look at again, I'm giving Airbnb as an example. Their product tends to be a lot cheaper than hotels, for example. So you may not like a certain culture, but you're definitely going to like their food. Sure. So if you're interested about the food and the price is lower than what a restaurant is offering, you might be willing to take that extra step.
And then, for example, an Italian can serve you pasta, so it's even delicious, even cheaper than a restaurant that you know anything about.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trying to figure out how I could use that for Thanksgiving dinner at my house. Our last, certainly not least, but our last group is net zero cooling. Ariana Pauls Aldry, electrical engineering, Jake Rada, electrical engineering, and Matthew Singer, electrical engineering.
How does this work? Just if you press down, it advances the presentation.
It advances, and the
That is the.
Yeah. Does it actually work? Oh, it doesn't work on the screen.
Not really, no.
That's okay.
Oh, well, sorry, I just lost me this.
I'll just comment on it.
Yeah, you can just stay on that slide for a second longer.
Perfect.
Okay.
Is it whenever they tell me? Are you guys ready?
Yeah, we're ready. I'm ready.
Okay. Just 1 second.
Oh.
Yeah. You get the jump in the act, I know.
Yeah, just sit.
Thank you. Ready?
Yep. Yeah, we're ready.
Ready? Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ariana Paules, and we have here with me today Matthew Singer and Jacob Rada. Liu couldn't come today, so Matthew's covering for us. And we're going to talk about our project, which is called Net Zero Cooling. So these are basically the sustainable development goals that the committee wants us to cover. And these are the ones that we chose that fit better our project. Basically, affordable and clean energy, because radiated cooling has zero emissions to the environment and has no damage to it. Affordable because it will lower the power and electricity consumption in today's world, which this will help with the sustainable cities and communities as well as industries. The climate action and life on land will basically go hand by hand, and the clean energy and the eco-friendly environment will help with some of the environmental issues that we have been facing in today's world. So to give a little bit of a background, in the United States, there's an average of 1,000 people that die due to extreme heat. Basically, I attached here a map which is defining what we call the urban island effect. This basically represents a 2 to 3 degrees increase in the temperature in the metropolitan areas compared to the other rural areas. As we can see in the map, I wish the pointer worked, but we can see Buffalo area, there is a little red point. There is the Chicago area, like New York or Massachusetts or Los Angeles in the western coast. So these just represent an increase in the temperature due to this power and electricity consumption and the use of other human activities.
So heating problems also occur on a more local scale. So for example, there are tons of industries that use heated wastewater and they just dump them right into our rivers and oceans. Now this heated wastewater can be very detrimental to the local ecology, including coral reefs and the fish that live in them. Now on a more personal note, besides the environmental aspect of heating problems, we also have our own problems to deal with heating in the summer especially. So does anyone know what the #1 use of electricity in your home is? Yes, you guessed it. It is air conditioning. So air conditioning accounts for roughly 1/5 of all electricity consumed in residential homes. Now, in addition to the residential aspect, the DOE did a study last year that showed that 10% of all electricity consumption in the United States came from air conditioning. And these costs and percentages actually get a lot higher in hotter regions of the country, such as Arizona, Southwest, places like that. So what do we plan on doing to help this heating issue? So we have engineered a low-cost, extremely scalable material that can transfer heat through radiation into outer space. Now this device that we've developed uses no electricity. It is made with readily available sustainable materials, and it requires little to no maintenance. And we've actually found in our lab that we can cool down our sample system by 11 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to have Jake tell you a little bit more about it.
So in regards to the timeline, this technology was first reported in Stanford in 2015, and within a year, we had started working on this material. Throughout that year, by 2017, we were able to fabricate our first device, and within a year of this fabrication, we received, like Matt said, our 11 degrees Celsius temperature drop within our test results. We're going to be continuing working on this device, and by 2020, we would like to have some industrial application for this device itself. So one of our possible implementations of this are going to be put on the rooftops of buildings, and our material is inside of that white rectangle. The material would work by just cooling the inside environment of your building and emitting the heat into outer space. Some of our key partners that we would like to work with, we want to start with small, start locally with the university. We would eventually work our way up into the city of Buffalo, and then we would be going further on into the United States, hopefully trying to get more partnerships with industries. And for a cost analysis, we believe we're at about $20 per square meter with our system currently. We've received promising results, so this cost will certainly decrease as the research is continued. As you can see in the top right, we believe that we can save families about $800 per year on electricity. And if we assume, say, 100 square meters for rooftop, we believe we can cover a roof with this material for about $2,000. And ideally, we would like to keep bringing this down lower and lower so these materials become more affordable for both residential, industrial, commercial uses, and then we can send these places to further places on. So thank you for your time. We're ready for questions and answers from the judges.
It's all very impressive. This is my wall side. I really get excited about this. Question for you. You mentioned people who started the idea. You perfected it, it sounds like. What's your competitive advantage? I'm assuming 11 degrees C is beating others, and maybe you have patents that they don't?
Well, obviously our results are better than what we've seen and what have been sent out there by these other universities and other people. So that is certainly one competitive advantage that we have, as well as we believe that we have this ability to scale it much better than these other universities due to the materials that we found that work, as well as having better creative thought processes on implementations of this technology.
The material is the key.
Yeah, I want to add on to that by saying when Stanford first invented this material, they used very expensive manufacturing processes, very precise design metamaterials, and we actually found low-cost sustainable materials that you could just buy in the store, and when we process them in a very low-cost, easy way, we could achieve very good results.
And that's our key, is this material processing.
Is this only for cooling, or is this working with the reverse for heating as well?
But if you want to answer that, or Ariana, if you feel comfortable too.
So for right now, it's just for cooling. We wanted to kind of focus our efforts on a single application instead of focusing on many areas as of right now.
So I guess I'm questioning a little bit. You said a metric of $800 it would save a family per year. So I don't quite know if my electric bill was in the cooling season would be $800, or where did you come up with that metric?
Well, that can be applied to the entire region throughout the United States average. So obviously there would be a bit less of savings within the Northeast, where we have obviously much longer winters. I mean, longer winters right now. But then when you compare it to the South, Southwest, and then these areas that have these extremely long, harsh summers, or these have this urban heat island effect where these temperatures are on average higher than other areas, that's where these energy savings can come into fruition, as well as possibly other countries as well. Saudi Arabia is desert and very, very warm throughout the year. Southern Europe. So these are some possible expansion locations, as well as some places where these
Um,
energy savings and monetary savings can come into fruition.
If I understood your slides correctly, it seemed that you showed that this implementation would be less costly than maybe a solar array, if I interpreted your graphics correctly. But I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to the potential cost prohibitiveness of this for low-income communities, who especially in urban areas are most commonly and predominantly affected by the negative impacts of urban heat island effect.
Well, for our partners, we want to start with the university, and then once the benefit of it is seen through cities and through governments, we would like to partner with them so they can help introduce this into these low-income communities, so it can kind of act as a subsidization for this technology. And with the solar panel that you discussed, you see a solar panel as an investment that helps save you money and helps keep your house off or independent of the grid. So we would like this technology to also be seen as an investment where it will save you money and have a rate of return over time. That's what we believe can also make it attractive for homeowners and especially businesses that are profit oriented.
But the difference is also that solar panels are much more expensive than what we're trying to do here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So a big round of applause to all the teams. So one of the challenges, I think, when we think about the WCC, if you will, are the challenges themselves. And I think at times it can be incredibly overwhelming when you think about all of the 17 challenges that are being addressed, whether it's climate change or reducing inequalities or all of it. I absolutely love this initiative in terms of hearing the pitches and the ideas. It gives me great, and I think it gives all of us such a great vision on where we are going, which is not the challenge but the solution. And we try to orientate our university around thinking about those solutions. And I think I speak for all of us here today in terms of thinking about how we move forward and how we address those and the inspiration that your ideas and pitches have given us. So thank you very much for having the courage to come up here and pitch that. That's not an easy thing to do. Congratulations, you made it into the top half of the pool just to get here. So thank you for your leadership and for stepping up into the challenge. We're going to take, the judges are going to, we're going to sequester them in an encrypted way. We're going to do top secret negotiations. Derek is going to bring you through a little bit of a process right now in terms of thinking both about our audience favorite and some other pieces. So thank you. So stay right where you are. We'll be as diligent and as quick as we possibly can.
In there.
It got heated.
Grab seats. Thank you very much.
Check. Holding, presenting.
No. Picture. We can take picture. Over here?
Or is that how we're going to chat when we go? So try to do the chat.
All right, so the judges have made their decisions. We'll get into that in a second, but before we do, I just want to bring to everybody's attention. Last year, the Flow Project, when they went up to London, Ontario, they did their thing, they came back. One of the team members actually went to Ghana and did the team's project. They want to take some time to assess what they have done, how to create a better evaluation for the program. It's on menstrual health maintenance and waste management in Ghana. We are having a boot camp session on that. You'll get to meet the team on April 25th in 240 Capon from 5:30. We're going to watch Period End of Sentence, the documentary that won the Oscar. And then we'll have a little discussion about their project and how we can make it better the next time they go to Ghana. They also need volunteers to go to Ghana to do it.
It's not free, but it's great.
Yeah, I have all of your email addresses. I'll send that information out to you all too. So I'll pass it over.
Oh, we'll do this together.
Yeah, once if you are a winner or recipient of an award, just come on up. We'll take your picture, a team shot, and everybody will clap for you.
So we will start with the fan favorite. which if you haven't noticed, majority rules. So it's good for next year to think about fan favorite of turning out your mates, right? So this year's fan favorite at $250, consumer-free waste. Come on. And because I'm too cheap, we don't have a paper check, but we will just do a little quick pose here. Right? You guys right there. Perfect. Right together. Oh, yep. Good. We'll make it work. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. Awesome. Congratulations. And coming in at third place with a check for $1,000, or I should say rolling in, Freedom Walker.
Needless to say, this is not a real check, but
we had
oh,
yeah.
You were gonna do
Yeah.
I don't know what that was. I think you're crazy.
Right together and then we'll go. Perfect. Perfect. Yep. Great. All right. And at second place, with a rubber paper check for $2,000, paving their way in Road to Success. The infamous awkward gripping right. And finally, our first place winner at $3,000, flying all the way to Canada, Team Numu.
That's so heavy.
All right, excellent.
Can I grab a burger real quick?
Yeah. Hold on, there's one right here that has one menu.
I'll take you that home one.
Excellent. Nicely done. So just to close us out, a big thank you. We've already plugged Sustainability Month quite a bit, but a reminder of Judah Thanks event on 4/11, April 11th, Beyond Plastics. Erie Hack on April 19th, and Transforming Our Tomorrow, which is a event very similar to this, but focused exclusively on clean energy. So for those of you who remotely had an issue that touched on clean energy like that, please consider entering into that if you haven't already. Talk to us afterwards. Thank you so much for joining us and stepping forward, and thank you to our judges and our university partners.